I thought you meant which standing ovation.
Oh, yes.
There were so many.
That's what
While we're all in good spirits, good evening, everybody. I hereby call this meeting of council committees to order. Just a few items of housekeeping. First and foremost, the meeting is being live streamed from those two cameras in the back right there. So just so that you know, the meeting is being recorded. Now is a fantastic time, I say as I check my own, to set your phone to silent or vibrate for the duration of the meeting. Please and thank you. This is a series of committee meetings, obviously, but please do try to keep any comments you make on items courteous, to the point, and under 3 minutes. Oh, and of course, begin with your name and the block of your residence. The other housekeeping item is that I'm going to move, oh, no, I'm not, because I don't have Dr. Livingston. I was going to move the committee of the whole, but we'll take it as it comes then. All right, with all that, Mr. Harris, would you please call the roll of members?
Yes, Mr. President. Mr. Arroyo.
Here.
Ms. Bakay. Mr. Cleese.
Here.
Ms. Craig.
Here.
Ms. Diaz. Ms. Walsh. And President Smith-Waddell.
Here. Councilors Bakay, Walsh, and Diaz are excused this evening. We go then to the approval of the September 6th, 2022 committee meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Council comments on the minutes. Hearing none, Mr. Harris.
Mr. Arroyo.
Aye.
Mr. Cleese.
Aye.
Ms. Craig.
Aye.
And President Smith-Waddell.
Aye. Thank you. All right, we go then to, actually, you know what, I'll take this moment to do a little civic education. So, per the laws of the city of Lancaster, and for anybody watching at home, I, as council president, am member of none of the council committees except for the committee of the whole, of course, but act as a de facto member in the event, for example, that there are not enough members to reach a quorum. I will be doing this act in several committees tonight, so you're aware. With that, Personnel Committee, Councilor Calixte.
Thank you, Council President. So the Personnel Committee has 12 items on the agenda for tonight. The first item is the nomination of Patrick Snyder for reappointment to the Lancaster County Convention Center Authority. And the next item is the nomination of Emily Samuel for reappointment to the Lancaster Housing Authority. And the third item is the nomination of Danielle Kepperling for reappointment to the Historical Commission. And the fourth item is the nomination of John Lefevre for reappointment to the Historical Commission. And the fifth item is the nomination of John Spiedeler for reappointment to the Historical Commission. And the sixth item is the nomination of Kurt Strauss for reappointment to the Historical Architectural Review Board. And the seventh item is the nomination of John Lefevre for reappointment to the Historical Architectural Review Board. And the eighth item is the nomination of John McGrain for reappointment to the Public Art Advisory Board. And the ninth item is the nomination of Molly Kirchhoff for appointment to the Sign Commission. And the 10th item is the nomination of Michael Mola for appointment to the Public Art Advisory Board. And the 11th item is the nomination of C. Sava Hongventon for appointment to the Public Art Advisory Board. And the third item is a council resolution, we are appointing the council resolution number 78, 2022, for reappointment of Michaela Olwine to the zoning hearing board. That's all for the personal committee tonight, Council President.
Excellent. Councillor Calixte, I make a motion to move the nominations of Patrick Snyder, Emily Samuel, Danielle Kepperling, John Lefevre, John Spindlier, Kurt Strauss, John Lefevre, and John McGran to the next meeting of full council.
Second. All in favors?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and now let's go to the ninth item of the agenda for tonight in the personal committee is the nomination of Molly Kirkhoff for appointment to the sign commission. Is Molly here? Would you please come forward in order to address council? How are you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Would you please introduce yourself and tell council about your goals, for and why you want to serve?
Sure. My name is Molly Kirchhoff. For those of you who have not met, I'm the new program manager of the Office of Public Art. I have been nominated for appointment to the Sign Commission. A part of my background is in architecture and urban design. I think that signage is often overlooked, but is a very necessary component of a cohesive streetscape. So as part of that, as the program manager, I also hope to work with Jamil to revise the sign ordinance as it applies to mural programs.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? Council President.
Thank you, Molly, for being willing to serve in both of the roles. Very glad to have you.
All right. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you.
So I make a motion to appoint Michael Mola to the Public Art Advisory Board.
We need a motion for Molly.
Huh?
Did we actually have a motion and a second for Molly? I don't think we had a motion.
No. Oh, yes, so, I'm sorry. So I want to make a motion to appoint Molly Kirkhoff to the Sign Commission.
Second.
All in favors?
Aye.
Aye. And now we have the nomination of Michael Mola for appointment to the Public Art Advisory Board. Is Michael here?
Good evening, I'm Michael Mola. And
Good
I live
evening.
in 229 West Chestnut here in the city and the president of Pennsylvania College of Art and Design.
All right, thank you for being here tonight. Would you tell council why you want to serve?
It would be an honor to serve this incredible community, and on the invitation of Molly and the members of the community to serve on public art, for the impact and power that it can create for a thriving community. That the opportunity for public art to engage all residents in many different ways can create a meaningful experience for residents, guests, and visitors of this amazing city. And it'd be a privilege to be part of that.
Okay, what would you like to accomplish in that position?
I would like to be sure that from a personal perspective about the kind of quality of public art isn't defined from a unilateral perspective, and that all voices could be part of that dynamic, diverse component of what makes up the city.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from other member of the committee?
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Now I make a motion to appoint Michael Mola to the Public Art Advisory Board.
Second.
All in favors?
Aye.
Aye. Now it's the nomination of Sisava Hongventong for appointment to the Public Art Advisory Board. Yeah, would you?
It's Olay Honglanthong Sisavat.
Okay, thank you for being here tonight. And what are your goals for the Public Art Advisory Board?
My personal goal is just to make it more transparent and more engaging to young artists that feel like they haven't had the opportunity to just have a seat at the table.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from Council President?
Thanks for being here, Ole. Thanks for willing to serve.
Yep, thank you.
Now, I make a motion to appoint Mr. Sisava Hongventon to the Public Art Advisory Board.
Second.
All in favors?
Aye.
Aye. Now we have the last item for the Personnel Committee tonight is the Council Resolution number 78, 2022. It is a pretty straightforward resolution. It's just for reappointing Michaela Allwine to the Zoning Hearing Board.
I will make a motion that we move Council Resolution number 78 to the next meeting of full council.
Second? All in favors?
Aye.
Aye. So that would be the end of the agenda for the Personnel Committee for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Calikst. Thank you to all our nominees. Yes, you can stay, but you don't have to.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you all.
Okay, that brings us to community planning. Councillor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. We have one item on the agenda this evening, and that is Administration Resolution 84, 2022, authorizing a projection easement for the 202 North Queen Street project. And Douglas is going to address this. Good evening.
Good evening, councilors. Good evening, Mayor. So this is regarding the proposed project, land development project at the intersection of Queen and Chestnut. Many of us know it as an empty parking lot, and it is proposed for a 12-story building that will have, sorry, let me get the number of units for you. That will have 142 residential, or sorry, yeah, 142 residential units in it with ground floor commercial. This is very far along in the land development process, and we expect to see this before Planning Commission within the next month. Part of their development is a proposal to have a projection into the public right-of-way in a couple of different ways. And Council, you've seen similar requests with previous projects. Most recent one being LGH and Hankin proposal for balconies. In this case, there are no balconies that will project over the right-of-way, but there are a couple of other building features. First, the building foundation for a building of this size often requires footers that extend beyond the face of the building. In the downtown like this, many of our buildings are at the public right-of-way line to create that streetscape commercial building frontage. So the building foundation will be underneath a portion of the sidewalk by about several feet. There's also a proposed architectural canopy that will note the entrance on Queen Street. That'll be the primary residential entrance, just for rain cover, basically. And then at the top of the building, Historical Commission approved a small cap on the building, similar to what you would see on many of the historic buildings. At the top of a building, a small architectural projection that comes out from the face of the building. So those are really the projections that are proposed here, and there is a proposal for a projection easement that wraps around the building on both a small portion of Chestnut, popping out of the building maybe about 2 feet or so, and then several feet on the Queen Street side. So you have a projection easement agreement as well as an exhibit that details that all. Happy to answer any questions about that.
Douglas, are there any renderings?
I'm sorry, Counselor?
Are there any like pictures
Renderings.
renderings?
I
Yes.
can pull those up. I have a site plan that I can pull up on the document camera, or if necessary, I have my computer with me and I can pull up a rendering of the building. The building has been approved by Historical Commission and then by Council for the certificate of appropriateness.
Right.
Are you thinking of just a plan view showing the easement
Yes.
around the building? Okay,
Yes.
then I do have that handy here, and I think the document camera might be easiest to see that.
Actually, for what it's worth, it's is this the version of the agenda with links? Because it's at the end of the PDF.
Oh.
I think
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have right here
That's right, that would also
So-
work.
in the resolution. So Bernie, yeah, you can pull it up
I couldn't get
there.
it.
It's resolution 8422. It's on page 6 of the PDF. Rather than fussing with the document again. Yeah.
It doesn't come up for me.
And then, yeah, so, right, and this is West Chestnut, so just for reference.
Okay.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, and if you-
There we go.
Thank you, Bernie. Mr. Harris. Yeah, so there are a number of easements on this plan, and the one that is pertinent to the projection easement that you have is the one along the front of the building. At the top of the screen would be Queen Street, and there is a double hatched section. That portion that runs along the entire length of Queen Street is for two projections, one being the cap of the building that creates a nice architectural feature similar to what you see in many of our historic buildings. And then there's a canopy that's called out right in the middle of that portion of the building on Chestnut. So that will be for rain protection and to denote the entrance, the main entrance to the building. So that's the projected easement on Queen. And then if you wrap around to the Chestnut side, they've asked for a smaller easement there, and that really runs with the cap of the building. And there's two smaller canopies for, I'm sorry, was it just one smaller canopy for the commercial space that will be on the Chestnut Street side?
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions from the committee? Any questions from council as a whole? Any questions from the public? We have no public. Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
I'll make a motion to move resolution 84, 2022 to full council on the 11th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that concludes community planning.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. That moves us then to the Public Safety Committee. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. We have one item on the agenda for the Public Safety Committee, Administration Bill Number 21, 2022, amending the fireworks ordinance. We have Chief Mendez here to speak on that.
Good evening, everyone. On September 9th, 2022, the state law signed into effect an amendment to the fireworks law, which would allow local municipalities to create ordinances for fireworks. The city believes that, due to the safety of the community, buildings, residents, that it's a necessary step to have this ordinance, which would prohibit the use of the commercial grade fireworks within 150 feet of any building, vehicle or within 300 feet of any animal housing facility. Nothing would change to the current prohibition that you cannot use these consumer-grade fireworks on city parks, roadways, or city-owned property. The city believes that we do fall, there is not a place that you can have the consumer-grade fireworks in the city that would fall within that 150 feet. This does not prohibit the use of sparkling devices or some of the little like toy cap or novelty fireworks. It's strictly the consumer-grade fireworks. And in the ordinance, there's also a section that would allow for any individual that believes they would be able to use these within the ordinance and the law to provide for a permit through the city permit coordinator, which would allow them to potentially use the fireworks. And again, I think just with the amount of issues that we get from fireworks, I know July 4th is typically like it's out of control. Just the safety, the noise, the litter, just it's a necessary step for the city.
Thank you, Chief Mendez. Just a question, what would be I'm not sure if you know this offhand, but the consequences for anyone that would be in violation of this bill?
So it is a summary offense, and I believe it's a $500 fine. Yes, it would be no more than $500 fine for the first offense, and subsequent offenses would carry increased penalties up to, I believe, $1,000.
Thank you. And last question would be, what are some examples of circumstances or situations where permits would be allowed for consumer fireworks?
So I don't know if there's any spot in the city right now that would allow for them based off of this, other than it doesn't affect, like, there's certain, like, if the city were to have an event that would get fireworks, it would not affect that, or like the Barnstormers have their fireworks. It's not meant to prevent those. This would be just for the consumer that goes out and purchases the fireworks and shoots them off on our city streets.
I'll just add to that. Whoa, that's loud. I'll just add to that. We did a GIS study to just look at the parcels that were more than 150 feet away from another building. And initially, we came up with about 13 to 16 parcels in the city where they would legally be able to launch fireworks. And so in the ordinance, it does include this permit process in which they'd have to demonstrate that they had this, owned this parcel and could demonstrate that they were 150 feet away from any building or any car. But this effectively will ban fireworks in the city of Lancaster. So I just want to be clear that the messaging that's going to go out about this is pretty, it's a seismic shift. It's not necessarily, it makes it clear that fireworks can't be used on any public properties, including streets, sidewalks, public parks, and that you would have to have a permit. And so the challenges of enforcement notwithstanding, this is a major breakthrough for us in terms of being able to pass an ordinance that has such a clear message to our residents about the safety. And we know, we already had one fire in the city as a result of fireworks. Unfortunately, there was no loss of life, but that's not been the case in other communities. So appreciate Chief being here to just walk through this. I know that it's as much a headache for the neighbors as it is for our officers running, just trying to address these issues.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions from the committee or full council?
If I may.
Council President?
So I agree wholeheartedly we should pass the ordinance. Not necessarily for my purposes, but someone in the next two meetings is going to find the enforcement part notwithstanding. And so I'm just interested to hear if we know anything about how we're going to approach this next summer yet.
Please, Mr. Harris.
We haven't gotten that far yet. Just to be perfectly frank, we wanted to get through the ordinance. This is very new legislation that communities are rolling out across the Commonwealth. I understand that this is going to be largely a communications effort and because it's a much more substantial fine than the $100 that could be fined in the past. But I think I speak for the chief to say, like, it is not our desire to fine people. What we want them to do is follow the law. And so we're going to do our best to educate and inform. But I have a feeling that we'll see a sharp decline in the utilization of fireworks and many more residents who know that it's illegal calling about their neighbors.
Yeah, I agree. I think, obviously, like, I don't think enforcement is necessarily, we don't want to come heavy-handed and cite everybody and everything. I think the most important thing is to get the education, make it out there, and I think well in advance of some of the major holidays like July 4th, that, hey, we are not going to tolerate this anymore. The city has enacted an ordinance, and I think that's the first big step, but obviously enforcement could potentially happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Craig?
What's the plan to communicate this to the masses?
We haven't quite gotten there yet. We wanted to get the ordinance together, but our comms team and the fire marshals and fire bureau and police bureau will work through a plan for that. And also through our Office of Neighborhood Engagement. So using our neighborhood leaders as conduits of information about this new law and helping them with fact sheets about what the new law is to disseminate. Those are some of the things that I can think about, but we definitely have to work through that. And I imagine in passing this ordinance, we're going to get some additional coverage that will be able to highlight what these changes mean, that effectively in the city of Lancaster, you are not able to use consumer grade aerial fireworks, because that's really what we're talking about.
Thank you.
Any questions from the public? So with that, I will motion to move Administration Bill number 21, 2022 to full council on October 11th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That concludes the Public Safety Committee. Council President?
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Chief. We go then to the Public Works Committee. Councilor Calixte.
Thank you, Council President. So for the Public Works Committee, we have on the agenda for tonight the Administration Resolution number 82, 2022, authorizing a grant application for construction of a river boardwalk on the Northeast Greenway Trail. So,
And I'm going to cover that one, Councilor Calixte.
good.
And so we are preparing a proposal to the Community Conservation Partnership Program C2P2 grant for $1 million for the Northeast Greenway Trail, which is the Conestoga Boardwalk. And there is, I don't know if any of you saw it, but on Engage Lancaster, there was an effort to solicit feedback related to the Conestoga Pines Park. This is a part of what's being considered for that. And more so, it is a connection for the east-west active transportation route that will come from what was affectionately known as the Goat Path or the Walnut Street Extension. Right now, we're working in West Lampeter Township to figure out what the connections are from that Walnut Street bypass connection through the neighborhoods in West Lampeter to Pitney Road and the Conestoga Pines Park. This boardwalk would be along the river on the Walnut Street side. And that is what this funding opportunity, what we are seeking, $1 million for that project.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any questions or comments from council as a whole? From the public? Now I'll make a motion to move a resolution number 82, 2022 to our next meeting.
Second?
All in favors?
Aye.
Aye. That concludes the agenda for the Public Works Committee for tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Calicst. We go then to the Finance Committee. Councillor Craig.
Thank you, Council President. Finance Committee has 3 items on the agenda this evening. Administration Resolution Number 79, amending the 2011 Capital Project Plan. Administration Resolution 80, 2022, amending the 2014 Project Capital Plan. Administration Resolution 81, 2022, amending the 2018 Capital Project Plan. And I see Patrick is already setting up.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. So there are 3 resolutions only because there are 3 different bond issues that we're dealing with in terms of making amendments to the project budgets or adding new projects. So the chart that's up in front of you for resolution number 79 goes actually all the way back to the 2011 bond issue. The only funds other than a spare $138 and some cents that remain in that bond fund are actually from 2 legal settlements that were funds that came to us from there were 2 different lawsuits where the city received legal settlements. Those funds, because they're not bond proceeds, can be moved to a different year's bond fund. So in talking with Christine Volke-Hilditch, who's the Deputy Public Works Director for the utilities, she's got a need to move funds from the Maple Grove Pump Station expansion and the Ingleside outfall. Both of those are legal settlement funds. And then the last remaining $138 some, which is the very last remaining dollars in this 2011 bond fund, reducing all those project budgets to 0. And then because it's bond or legal settlement funds, we'd be moving those funds to the 2014 bond fund, and I'll show that to you in a second. So with those moves, the 2011 bond fund can be completely closed out. No dollars remain for any projects, sewer, water, general fund in that bond fund. So the total move is $305,535 for resolution number 79. For resolution number 80, then what we're doing is for the first 2 projects that are listed here, basically it's a little bit of leftover funds from 2 projects that have been completed. The collection system improvements, those projects are ongoing, but for the purposes of this bond fund, what's there has been completed. And then the North Pump Station diversion structure, that project is also completed. And then combining the 8723 from project number 25 and the $115,006 from project number 26, and then the remaining funds from 2011, we're adding to project number 16, $429,264, and that will allow us to fund an escrow for oxygen control project at the wastewater treatment plant. So that's the interplay between the 2011 bond fund moves and the 2014 bond fund moves. I'll pause there if there's any questions.
The project description is the wastewater or 16?
Project number 16 is at the wastewater treatment plant. So both resolutions number 79 and number 80 deal only with sewer-related projects.
Questions from anyone? I think we can keep going.
Okay. Then resolution number 81 deals with both sewer and water projects. I will not run you down through all of these projects, but the short story effectively is this project number 14 has currently authorized funding of $3,548,226, and we're removing almost all of that funding. That project is on the 2022 bond issue project list for the construction portion of it. There was, where that clarifier is intended to be constructed, there's some underground issues there that are requiring some additional study. So the funds that would remain in this project after removing about $3.3 million of funding would be the 230,484. So those funds would remain for the ongoing subsurface investigation that has to be done. Everything else that would be construction related will be funded with the 2022 bond issue. The rest of these changes are increases to, from projects 9 through 44, are increases to already approved projects. And for the, all of these are escrow related. So when you see the word escrow in any of these related to the sewer system, those are projects that are either at the wastewater plant or at pumping stations where it's not just city wastewater flow that goes through them, it's also our bulk sewer partners. So depending on the facility, there's a different mix of bulk sewer partners who are also putting funds into an escrow so that the project can be completed. So the remainder of those projects is about $2.9 million of increases. So again, from project number 9 through project number 44, and that leaves a net reduction of just over $400,000. And then there are two new projects to be added to the list. Project number 45 is $109,010. When you see a number that's specific, that means that we've already bid that out. We know what the amount is going to be. And then project number 46 would be $250,000, and that's for, project number 45 is for demolition of an obsolete compost building at the wastewater treatment plant. And then number 46 is project study costs for the Conestoga Gardens and Stevens Avenue pump stations. So the net result of this ultimately is amending budgets down $400,000 and adding $359,000 of projects. So net is a reduction of $41,610. That's on the sewer part of this list. Any?
Okay, I have one question.
Okay.
The two, in the project budget 14, on line 14, the 230,484, that'll remain to take care of
the additional study that needs to be done for subsurface. Right, so those dollars will be spent out during, the remainder of 2022 and into 2023.
Okay, are there any questions from the committee?
Councilor Craig, if I may, Patrick, so if you'd scroll up a little bit.
Yep, sorry.
Talk about, so net change with amendments, $41,000, or, a reduction of $41,000. How does that play out over time with interest in terms of the bond, right? Like, so is that like a meaningful, does that have any meaningful implication in the budget long-term?
Not as it relates just to these projects. There are still several $1 million of unexpended 2018 bond funds in the sewer portion of the 2018 bond fund. That's actually why you don't see any sewer projects in the 2022 bond fund, because there are still unallocated, unspent dollars in the sewer portion.
Right.
That $41,000, I mean, the unallocated funds is somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 to $4 million.
Right.
So this is a very small piece of that.
Okay.
Ultimately, as Chris Hilditch works through the remainder of the projects that need to be done, we would come back with, I would assume, additional project amendments. This is really set up to fund these individual escrow accounts that they've been working through with the partners. And some of those projects, even from the 2018 bond fund, were related to ultimately the long-term control plan, which is still being worked on, and that's related to the consent decree.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilor Craig.
Absolutely. Further questions from the committee? Questions from council? Questions from the public?
And then I have a question. Can we do these all together?
I actually think
The-
Mr. Hopkins has.
The water, yeah, just so,
there is.
the water portion of this then is reducing the project budgets for 5 projects, number 1, 6, 9, 10, and 13, which is a total reduction of just over $2.3 million. That leaves some funds remaining. The Oyster Point 42-inch main Phase 1 project is winding down, but there's still somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000 of cost there. And then there is this 2,000, no, I left the decimal places there. It's a little over $2,100 that's left that is just encumbered funds for paying out the last pieces of 2019 water main replacement projects. So that net reduction of $2,312,000 then gets folded into 3 new projects. There's a 2022 water main replacement list of continued work that will really be 2022 and into 2023. 500, and that's for $412,000. $500,000 for valve replacements. In the most recent water rate case that we had with the Public Utility Commission, there was an agreement in that settlement for the beginning of a system-wide valve replacement project, which there are something, I want to say it's somewhere around 8,000 valves in the entire system. And so the PUC wanted us to get on a schedule of replacing a portion of those valves over a period of time. So this is a start of that project. And then finally, project number 22, special and emergency water projects. As you all know from hearing Mr. Campbell talk about, wintertime water main issues and things like that, that's really what this is intended to be. So where projects that are not specifically defined right now on the project list, but as they come up throughout the year, rather than coming back and doing budget amendment here and there, this would set aside $1.4 million for those projects. So the net of those 2 changes, or of all of those changes, is 0.
Where are we?
And that is it.
Okay. Can we go back just a little bit? Yeah, that's it. No, right there. 45 and 46. Are they scheduled to be done, or are they already done?
No, scheduled to be done. So what this is doing is adding those as authorized projects on the capital project list. So the compost building demolition and the condition assessment at Conestoga Gardens and Stevens Avenue are projects that are being requested to be added so that we can have authorization to spend those dollars.
Okay, great. And that's it. I will make a motion to have resolutions 79, 80, and 81 move to full council on the 11th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council President, that concludes Finance Committee.
Thank you, Councilor Craig. We go then to the Economic Development Committee. Councilor Arroyo.
Thank you, Council President. We have one agenda item tonight, an update regarding the housing RFP that's currently in process. The review committee is currently reviewing the request for proposals, and later this month, the committee will deliberate and interview applicants if needed, and recommendations will be forwarded to council with an anticipated vote at council in late October. That concludes my update, Council President.
Thank you very much, Councilor Arroyo. We go then to the Committee of the Whole, that's all of us, and we begin with Council Resolution number 83, 2022. This resolution would essentially support legislation at the state level to allow individuals to access driver's licenses as a form of identification, pardon me, regardless of their documentary status. We've been approached by two immigrant rights organizations about this matter. And the thrust of it, at least from my perspective, is that as we federally, as our nation resolves questions of immigration and migration, this allows the people that are here in this community to go to school, go to work without fear, and just offers them a little bit more security, as we know they are a significant part of our community and economy. And it's in that spirit that this resolution is on the agenda this evening. With that, I will make a motion that Council Resolution number 83 be, placed on the agenda for the 11th.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Comments or questions from the committee, which is everybody? Okay. Comments or questions from the public? I guess it's just you, Dr. Livingston. Hi. Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. And then our second item here is a presentation from Patients Are Waiting. If you're not already familiar with Patients Are Waiting, they are a local nonprofit aimed at increasing the representation of people of color, specifically Black people, in the medical field for all of the benefits and comforts that offers to patients. They've done a lot of really incredible work in the city, especially since the beginning of the pandemic. And so we have the privilege of having Dr. Cherie Livingston here this evening to present. So Dr. Livingston, would you come to the podium? And then Mr. Harris can scroll for you at your direction.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Thanks for allowing me to be here. I'm Dr. Cherie Livingston. I'm the OBGYN Department Chair at UPMC Lidditz. I was born and raised in Harrisburg in the inner city and have been here in Lancaster since 2006. I am a founding board member of Patients Are Waiting. And as you can see there, Patients Are Waiting is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to eliminate health disparities by increasing diversity in medicine. And what do we mean when we say increase diversity in medicine? For the past 40 years, the number of Black and brown doctors in our country has remained stagnant at 5%. And of the 32% female physicians, 2% are Black. So our goal is to diversify medicine because there are many studies that show that health outcomes are improved when we have physicians, nurses, midwives, doulas who reflect the community that they're caring for. Next slide. This past weekend, we celebrated our 6th annual Diversity in Medicine Conference. We had 159 registrants. So that means that Lancaster County is quickly becoming the place that is known for growing Black and brown healthcare providers. We had 5 countries represented here this weekend. Ireland immediately comes to mind. We had several high school, college, pre-med, medical students and residents from all across the country. We descended on PA College of Health Sciences, and we had amazing speakers. We had Black men in white coats. We were actually graced with the presence of a very popular physician, Dr. Pierre Johnson, who's well-known both nationally and internationally as Doc for the Streets. He's a physician, he was our keynote, and he's a physician who spreads the word that doctors can look like anybody. So he got up on stage in his wonderful, gear that I think was just so amazing for the students to see. He was not suited up. He just had on sneakers and black jeans, and when he stood on the stage, he said, "Guess what? You all can be a doctor. I am." And he personifies what it means to just be yourself. And that was essentially his message. So the 159 students were able to do a lot of simulation. We had hands-on activities. It was absolutely amazing. We had students practicing scrubbing, pretending they were in the operating room. I had students who were role-playing robotic surgery. So it was really amazing. So I had to share the wonderful things of our Diversity in Medicine Conference. Next slide. And just to quickly sum up some of our other initiatives, next slide. We have a program specifically designed for high school students. Our Pipeline Dreams program really serves the first area of focus that we have with Patients Are Waiting, which is to increase the pipeline of minority clinicians. It takes 10 years to become a physician. And unfortunately, during those 10 years, we're losing students who look like me. They start off with their family's hopes and dreams of becoming a doctor, and they get maybe a B or a C on a test, and then they're not given the bandwidth or the support to continue on with those endeavors. And that's why we exist. We exist because we want to fill those gaps, those holes in the pipeline. And so we do it with programs like our Pipeline Dreams. This spring, we will be engaging in our 4th Pipeline Dreams program, where we take a cohort of high school juniors and seniors, and for 12 weeks, we help them work on a health disparities research project. And at the end of those 12 weeks, they present in front of doctors and the community and stakeholders. So we're excited to engage in our 4th year, but the high school students love it. There are pictures of them up there where they get to be exposed to medical terms early on so that they're not hearing biology or scientific terms for the first time when they get in the college, when it might be a more intimidating environment. And then I'll finish off by telling you about our Diversifying Doula initiative. And we're grateful to have Izzy have spoken at our 2nd annual birthday for Diversifying Doulas initiative. That's our sweetheart organization because Dr. Hamblin and I are both OBGYN physicians, and we started DDI. She and I co-founded it together. Here in Lancaster, 700 Black women birth annually. 700 Black women die a year in our country. And our goal was to ensure that that health disparity, since Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in childbirth, our goal was to ensure that COVID didn't worsen that health disparity. And that's why we started the Diversifying Doula initiative. Next slide. You can slide through until we see, keep going. That's just some images of the high school students. Yeah, there we are. You can show our doulas on the next slide. A doula is a non-medical birth assistant, and even Kamala Harris is talking about doulas because we have to really grab hold of the maternal health care crisis that's happening in our country. Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in childbirth, and that's everybody's business because when we lose moms, we lose sisters, we lose cousins, we lose daughters, and we really want to help eliminate that health disparity. And so we know that doulas are an integral part of the comprehensive health care team. And so with DDI, to date, we have provided 200 Black and brown pregnant people here in Lancaster with free doula care. Having a doula is expensive. Probably 15 years ago, the only people who could afford doulas were affluent white women. And so what we're doing is we're trying to bring the number of Black and brown doulas up. Lancaster County had 1 Black doula 2 years ago. After our program, they now have 28. We have trained 28 Black and brown doulas here in Lancaster so that they can help us improve the maternal health disparities that I described moments ago. So I understand that your time is precious, and I am grateful that you allowed me, a community member, to stand in front of you and share our Patients Are Waiting initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Livingston. Stay at the podium for a second. Thank you. Well, first, questions or comments from council?
Council President. Thank you for being here tonight. And I have one question. I would like to know what challenges do you guys encounter and in helping people with this initiative?
With Patients Are Waiting in general, with our
Yes, with
diversifying
Patients Are Waiting in general.
Yeah, I would say our biggest challenge is funding. Dr. Hamblin and I are both full-time mommy docs. And so essentially, our brains and our hearts are kind of working in 2 different patterns, right? I have to work as an OBGYN physician. I take call, I sleep in the hospital. Last Saturday, I slept in the hospital for 24 hours. I swear everybody in Lancaster decided they wanted to have a baby that night. But that's my primary job. My heart tells me that my community needs me. And so she and I pour lots of time, lots of energy into an initiative that we love, but is not funding itself. And so we are constantly engaging in meetings. We had probably 2 or 3 alone today in the middle of seeing 30 patients. I sit on the PA Doula Advisory Board. So I'm, shooting out ideas there on how we can improve maternal health outcomes. So I would say sustainability. There's a reason that for the past 40 years, the number of Black and brown doctors has remained stagnant at 5%. And that's because we've lost intentionality. And when to say lost means there was something once had. I don't know if we're giving we as a whole, everybody, are giving the necessary energy, time, talents, and treasures to the cause of diversifying medicine. This past Friday, I spoke in front of 200 folks out at UPMC McGee talking about this very thing. What's contributing to this stagnancy? We know it's implicit bias, current and historical inequalities, inequities to be quite frank, systemic racism. And so we have to just, 1, accept that. 2, just broach it one step at a time. And although Patients Are Waiting can't do it alone, when you have organizations that are successful, pour into those organizations, because if we're working in silos, very little gets done, but when we team up, much gets accomplished.
Thank you. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Any others? Dr. Livingston, I would just ask you, take a moment, let us know what kinds of support members of city council or the city, the community could show your organization briefly.
Well, we like to pour into our young folks, right? So if there's any help that you can do, 4 patients are waiting, help with our Pipeline Dreams program. All of us knows a junior or senior out there who could participate in our program. It's 12 weeks guided by physicians, midwives, any health adjacent providers. And so if we all can say, you know what, I'm going to think of 2 or 3 high school juniors and seniors, specifically those in vulnerable communities, who can have direct access and networking exposure with Black and brown doctors. And the students don't necessarily have to be Black and brown high school juniors and seniors, but of course that is our area of focus because that's the area of need. So that's how City Council can help us, by pouring into our Pipeline Dreams program, because if we can get the students that early on, our preference is to get them even earlier, right? 6th grade, and start pouring life into their dreams of becoming a doctor. We have students in our pipeline. Right now we have about 500 students in queue, and that's students from all over. But we are committed to our local community. Those are the kids we spend weekends with. Those are the students that have access to me and can come watch me do robotic surgery up in Lidditz. So what I ask, and my ask is very clear, is to pipeline students to us. Help us fill those gaps with consistent student presence. And to be honest, 11th and 12th grade's the best, but if we can get them even earlier, we have a summer STEM program that we work with Brightside and the Mix. And this past summer, we had a 6-week STEM program at the Mix. It was phenomenal. I went in and talked to students about anatomy, and we played games about what's the longest bone in your body. And these kids are smart. They are smart, and they need adults like us pouring life into their dreams. They need to see Black doctors standing in front of them who look like me and are talking to them like I believe in them and showing them that we believe in them. So I say fill the gaps with the students, young, 6th grade and up, but specifically help us build our Pipeline Dreams program.
Excellent, thank you. Any other comments from council or the public? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Livingston.
Thank you.
We go then to our clerk's report. Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mr. President. Of course, I sent this to you in writing, but go over some of the high points here. Some of the things I've done in the last month. I wrote the resolution regarding the undocumented immigrants and obtaining driver's licenses, provided meeting minutes and proof of public notice of meetings for a state DEP report. I provided requested indexes of 2021 legislation for the city's cost study. I researched documents of the city's Conestoga Pines Park in response to a right to know request. I attended the Parking Authority meeting on the 22nd and provided you a summary of that. I met with the communications manager to review the process for flag approvals, which we're going to be doing shortly. Provided vehicle titles, prepared the quarterly review to track board, commission, and authority appointments. So I have registered for a webinar on electronic record keeping by the State Archives that's going to be held later this week. And sent the CASA resolution, communicated with council members, communicated with members of the public, various tasks.
Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of our agenda, so I will hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Have a good evening.